At InDigital, we know that public safety professionals hold themselves to a high standard. In fact, standard doesn't do it justice. In over 25 years working alongside you, carrying millions of calls over our IP networks, your dedication has inspired us. That's why our ESI Net goes beyond industry standards, not only i3 compliant, but designed to adapt to future development for a network you can count on when it matters most. Learn more at indigital.net.
It is a new day for 911 professionals. They have gone from the most important person you will never see to the most vital piece of public safety. Truth be told, they always have been. The curtain has been pulled back, and they are sharing their stories. Welcome to Imagine Listening. Your Worst Day is Our Everyday by Ricardo Martinez II, and narrated by myself, Ricardo Martinez II, and distributed by Beacon Audio Books. Copyright 2023. That's right, everyone. Finally, I can let everyone know the rumors are true. Imagine Listening, Your Worst Day is Our Everyday is now available as an audiobook on Audible, and it's a long time coming. Very excited. Not a lot of authors get the opportunity to voice their own book, but I had the honor and privilege to do so. So thank you to Beacon Audio Books, as well as my publisher, Titled Town Publishing, for everything, but especially all of you for making the I Am 911 movement, as well as Imagine Listening, what it is today. I appreciate you all more than you know. So go ahead, head out, stream it, download it, however you consume your audiobooks. Imagine Listening is now available. If Within the Trenches has ever taught you something, open your eyes to what it is like to be a 911 dispatcher, or has inspired you to become one, then help support us and join our Patreon. Get exclusive bonus content, one-of-a-kind swag, discounts on merchandise, ad-free early access to new episodes, and much more. To join, please visit patreon.com/WTT podcast. And if you're an industry partner, we have something for you as well. And now, for the show.
This is Jordan, and you're listening to the Code 7 Podcast Network.
Warning. This episode contains the 3 A's of podcasting: adult content, adult language, and awesomeness. You've been warned.
Welcome to Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them.
Hey, what's going on? This is Ricardo with the Code 7 Podcast Network, and this is Within the Trenches, true stories from the 911 dispatchers who live them. This episode is sponsored by InDigital, a leader next-gen core services, and a big shout-out, as always, to all of the subscribers, whether you are on Circle, Facebook, or Patreon. And a lot is going on, as usual. As I always say, this week, it is the 23rd of May. By the time this episode comes out, it's probably going to be June. So, because there's so many episodes and everything that I have that are going out. But this past week, I've been out here with the Aurora 911. We were doing a couple classes for my 8-hour communications class, which was phenomenal and everything. Now we are here. Well, not live. I almost said live. We're not live. We're recording live here within the center of Aurora 911 out of Colorado. And I have a guest with me today, one of their emergency specialists, and I'm here with Reyna. How's it going?
Hi, guys.
Or Reyna, as some of them, because, not everybody can roll the R. Roll the R.
Exactly.
Right?
Rolling the R's.
Yes, sometimes it's hard, but not for us. So Reyna is an emergency specialist 1 with, as I said, Aurora 911 out of Colorado, and I'm excited to be here with you. And so you're currently working as well, right?
Yeah.
A little bit as we're here doing this too. So what kind of shift are you on? I mean, is it an 8-hour? Is it a 12-hour? What are you working right now?
Right now I'm working 8 hours from 4 a.m. to 12 noon.
Wait, what?
Yeah, it's too early.
Snaps. Like that was about the time that I woke up today because the time change is messing me up. So actually it was 3 because I usually wake up at 5 no matter what. No matter what time I go to sleep, I wake up at 5. So I woke up and it was 3 and I'm just laying there like, oh my God, what do I do now?
It's way too early.
I know,
It's
right?
just way too
Well,
early.
well, an
For
hour later, you were
human.
here. so you've been in dispatch going on about 4 years now, right? This year you're going on about 4.
Yes.
How did you get into public safety to begin with?
So I study criminal justice in
Mhm.
college, and then I started applying to jobs, and I was looking into police. So I knew one thing, not a police officer,
Mhm.
but somewhere around there in the area um, to be a part of. And so I started applying to Denver and then Aurora, and I was working for the front desk, and I started taking reports that had no suspect information, and it was part of records.
Mhm.
But what I liked most was that anything that could happen at the front desk, we had the radio on, and we would listen to the channel going on in the city, District 1, District 2. And it was like amazing. I want to do that. And I started hearing the radio, and I was like, I want to do that. And I started looking into 911 and dispatch. So I was working there for a year within records, and then I applied here. And it felt like a challenge for me to get more experience with public safety and just criminal justice overall in the police department. So then I did it. I applied. I passed through the academy. I passed through the training, and here I am.
That's awesome. So right in the beginning, even before the academy, do they allow you to come in and see what it looks like and everything?
Yeah. So we were like, I believe like 5 of us working at the front desk
Mhm.
at the time, and we would communicate with the call takers up here via the application through message, and um, random times they would schedule us to be working at this building or somewhere else.
Mhm.
So I was here, and then I let the person know that I was communicating with them that I'm here at this building, and she was like, "Really? I'm gonna go get you." And then I was so nervous. I was like, "What do you mean? You're gonna show me upstairs?" She was like, "Yeah, why not?" Oh, okay. I wasn't ready. And then, yeah, she invited me upstairs, and then like everything secured. And I came in, and I was just so fascinated by the amount of computers that are in front of us.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah.
And then this is just one person, and this computer is in front of them. I was just like, wow, I want to do that. I want to sit there. And then,
That
yeah.
that is awesome. So you just coming in, just basically the inspiration from listening to the radio and everything else. You were already going to school for criminal justice and all, and then you come in here, and so was it overwhelming at all? Like when you first saw it all, even though you wanted to do it and everything, was it kind of overwhelming too? Like, ooh,
Yeah.
like I don't know.
I walked in thinking that I knew everything.
Yeah.
You know, that's not the case.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Especially when you see all those monitors and everything and you hear certain things that are going on. But then when it's your turn, right, and you start learning things, or even when they said to you, now you're going to be the one taking the phone calls. I think even in training, depending on how you do it, if they do like a simulation and stuff, it's still kind of nerve wracking, right?
Yes. Anytime there's a 911 dropping, you don't know what you're gonna get on the other side.
Yeah.
It's just surprise.
I can feel from you that you're still, even though you're like 4 years in, there's still a lot more in your career to go, right? But you still have that like excited feeling. Like I can tell that you really love what it is that you do here.
Yes, I love it. It's very challenging every day to come in and not knowing what you're gonna get,
Hmm.
and then that call is gonna make your day, and then maybe a thanks for what you do, or like a meaningful thank you on the phones it means the world. Sometimes it just makes your day better.
I love that. Yes, this was something that we were talking about in class as well, that, 911 is a thankless job, right? And we don't always want the recognition or whichever. But like you said, when someone gives you a meaningful thank you, you hear that over the phone, because we rarely hear that, right? And you end up getting that. It's just like hits you right there. Like I'm in the right spot, right?
Yeah, my heart right there.
So you end up going through training and everything, and you start taking calls. Do you remember some of those earlier calls that you took?
Yeah, I definitely do. The hardest call, the most saddest call, I think it was a father calling in for his 6-month-old baby, just saying that he was not breathing, and just instructing him through CPR, and him just wanting me to tell the mother that everything is going to be okay.
Yeah, those are probably one of the hardest ones, especially if you have, kids of your own, or you have, nieces and nephews, or even friends with kids, whichever. Even if you don't have kids, a lot of those calls that have to do with kids are the hardest ones. Or
Yeah.
even just in general, someone who's calling about their loved one, and you're the voice that's there. It's a lot of responsibility, right? There's a lot of stress as well that comes with that I think a lot of the people who are watching and listening, that they don't understand that as well. When you've got people coming or calling in, they're calling pretty much during their like worst nightmare, right? And then it's up to you to stay calm and to help them out. But what a lot of other people don't know, or maybe they're learning more now, that some of those voices stay with you.
Yeah, they do.
So I do have a question. We were kind of talking about this before we started. Do you translate for any of those calls?
Yeah. So I listen in Spanish, I respond in Spanish, and then it takes me like a few seconds to type everything in English, because every call is documented in English.
Right.
It's not in Spanish. So I can just say the reporting party Spanish speaker, and then say what the Spanish speaker is saying in English. Type the whole thing in English.
Oh my Lord. So I bring this up as well because I also speak Spanish, but it wasn't my first language. English was. And so for me, when I got into dispatch, it was a lot harder, because now I'm like double time trying to translate it in my head and type, just like you're saying. But there were a few words that I didn't know. So I was going like into detail. I would say, instead of saying, because I didn't know what the word was for weapons, armas. I didn't know what that word was right away. I had never had to use it ever. So I went into detail, like, tiene pistolas, like, do you have guns, knives, or whichever? And I'm going down the line, and they're like, no. And I'm like, what is the word? So as I'm going through the call, I Googled it.
No, me. I started like thinking, okay, the person was saying that the person used the knife to slash the tires in the car, but the whole thing was in Spanish.
Yeah.
And I turned around to ask my coworkers for help, because there's more of us that speak Spanish and English. And I was like, how do you say he used the knife to slash the tires? I literally asked in English. Like, I already translated it in my head, and then I just needed to type it.
Right. Yeah.
And then my coworker was like, in Spanish or in English? Because you're saying it in English.
That's amazing.
Oh man, it's just like the stress of the call, and I'm trying to get help there, and I'm trying to make everybody aware of safety. Safety for everyone there at the call, safety for everyone going to the call. That we need to put, if there's a weapon, there's something important. So I'm doing it, but I don't know what happened. It was just so funny. How do you say this in English? And I'm already saying it.
That is great. And that is a a perfect depiction of what it's like on the floor as well when you're taking those calls. Because just like you said, I mean, you are double, triple time in your brain. You're listening to everything. You're translating it in your head. You're typing it out, but also at the same time, you're kind of scrambled. Like, wait, and you already did it, but that's that fast pace that you're just going and going and going. You didn't even realize, like, it passed you.
It passed me. I was like, oh, where did it go? But yeah, I just needed to type it.
See, and so when I was in dispatch, I was the only one who could speak Spanish to be able to translate in certain calls. And one of the other things too was just like the word for address, which is dirección, right? And that was another word I didn't know. Like, what? I'm like, that's what the word is. So when I was asking people, I would say, "Donde vives?" Like, where do you live? I was so like Spanglish style, people would say, well, this is like the address or whatever. And they would say Finville, like they would say the city name. And I'm like, oh crap. Nope, that's not right. That's not what I'm looking for. And I'm like, so I'm trying to think of it in another word that I had to Google. And it popped up. It was like dirección. And so then I said, do dirección. And they're like, oh, and then they said it all. I was like, oh my God, like this is, thank the Lord that there wasn't anything crazy going on, like really crazy. But
they'd be like, what do you need my address for? That's not that is not where the emergency is at.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh man. Yes. What about some of the some of the calls that you've taken where it just, I don't know, even just routine ones or ones that kind of made you think like, is this really happening? Like, is this real life? Like, so for example, there were some calls that I remember taking where, people would call. There was a guy who called in, and actually this wasn't my call, but it was my partner's call, and I was listening to it, and it was an elderly gentleman who was calling because there was there was a guy naked on stilts walking back and forth and in front of his house, and he could see him.
Yeah.
Just like crazy calls like that. I mean, do you guys get any, like, especially that you've taken?
Crazy calls like that. Yeah, I'm taking those. They're crazy stuff. For example, people just like walking on the highways. That are you sure? Like on the highway? Yeah, on the highway. On the highway, I'm telling you, or walking in the median, in the between the highways,
right? Yeah,
both directions, in the median, they're walking. Okay, I go like, okay, but it's not okay.
Right?
It's like, okay, like I feel like I need to say okay to give myself a moment to say, who am I to say what you're seeing is not true. You're not saying the right stuff to me. It's not true. You're lying.
Right. Is there actually somebody there, or do you see this, or what's going on? There were a couple times where, so the area where I worked, there was a lot of hunting that would go on in the area. And we would have people call during hunting season where they would say, this person is dressed in camouflage and they're walking with a rifle on the side of the road. And I always wanted to say, well, if they're wearing camouflage, how can you see them? But which I never would, because, we have to stay professional.
Yeah.
But that was one thing that I always wanted to say, like, how can you see them? Like, I don't know how you can see them.
If they're camouflage, I don't. Are you sure?
or even like one time I was working on phones, and I got a phone call for someone who was weaving all over the road. They were in a purple Grand Prix, and they said that their muffler was really loud. And I'm taking all the information, and we put it out, and the caller hangs up with me, and I immediately call my dad because that exact description is his, and I knew that he was going to be driving home soon from work. And so we put the BOL out, but the be on the lookout. And I call my dad on the phone because one of the officers, I told him, I was like, I think the car that you're going for is my dad. And the officer goes, are you going to call him? And I said, yeah, I'll call him really quick. So I called, and my dad answers the phone. He's like, Mijo, what are you doing? He goes, aren't you at work? And I said, yeah. Are you on the highway right now? And he goes, how did you know that? And I said, are you tired right now? And he goes, I mean, yeah. He goes, what's going on? I said, there's an officer who's trying to find you right now because someone called because you're weaving all over the roadway. He goes, I'm going to stop at the gas station and go to sleep. He's like, I can't believe that.
Oh
I said,
my
I
God.
can't believe that. I was the one who took the call.
Oh my God. No, I wouldn't. I don't know what that would be like for me.
Yeah.
I personally haven't had a really important call
hmm
where my family or someone that I know is calling in. I feel like I need to prepare for that.
Yeah.
I just don't know how hard it would be for me
Yeah.
because I could stay cold and, take it as it goes. But the moment they arrive there and the call's over, I feel like I'll need a moment.
Well, yeah, of course. Yeah.
I'll be
'Cause
like calling my mom.
like, are you okay?
Mommy, I'm not okay.
So if you don't mind me asking, but so this, where you work here at Aurora 911, is this also the area where you reside, like where you live as
Yeah,
well?
I live here.
So
So-
that's the hard thing, right? So when you live in a place where you work, where you grow up, it's possible that you might answer calls from friends or family, and then you're like, do I tell them who I am? Like I had a tia. Well, I'm all telling. So for those who are watching and listening, tia is Spanish for like aunt, and tío is for uncle. So I had a tia call, and she was just freaking out because she goes, somebody's breaking into my neighbor's house, and I saw her name, like, oh my God, do I tell her who I am? And she was freaking out, and I said, tia, I said, it's Richie. And she goes, "Ay, mijo," and so she changed completely.
yeah.
And she was all like, she actually felt like some comfort in it, where before she was just freaking out,
Yeah.
and it actually calmed her down. But what I told her was, that's an officer. I said, we have an officer there just checking because those people are on vacation. And she goes, oh, she's like, thank you so much for letting me know. But like friends that I went to high school with that still lived in the area, I wouldn't say who I was because
Definitely not.
yeah, sometimes people won't answer your questions afterwards because now you know their business.
Technically, yes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, no, I just I've had like my fiance calling in,
hmm
and I didn't recognize his voice. I had also on that day
hmm
his sister sitting with me to listen through calls because she was she studies psychology and
hmm
she was just out of college and she was just looking something, a job or something to do, and I told her if she would like to come over here and just listen for like a couple hours, and she was here during that call, and it was a fire in the highway
hmm
on the side of the road. But when fire calls, there's multiple people calling.
Right. Yeah.
And the queue starts saying 20, 10, 15. Like, I'm just one call taker here.
Yes.
There's 20 people here calling. What am I going to do? You go through call by call, and you ask, are you calling referencing the fire by the highway on the side? Yeah, there's a fire in the highway at the side of the road. Okay, we do have a fire department heading that way. They're driving as fast as they can, ma'am. Thank you so much for calling. Stay as far as you can from the fire.
Yeah.
Do not go around it. Do not turn it off. Just be away. And it was one of those callers was him. And I didn't recognize his voice. I was so cold. I was there to tell him we already have a call in. Fire department is being sent. Please stay away from the fire. Call us back if anything changes or you have any additional information. And then the sister goes, that was him. That was him. That was my brother.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no, it wasn't. And then sure it was. I repeat the recording and I'm assuming that I'm also a person.
Right.
And I'm like, oh my God, that was him. Oh my God, that was so him. And then I called him and I said, I put myself outside and
Yeah.
I called him and said, "Oh, it's me you were speaking with." He was like, "I know."
He knew.
I am so sorry. I did not know.
Well, and I mean, you get into that mode, right, where you're taking calls and
Yeah.
taking calls, and you're not so much like tunnel vision, but you're just like automatically, taking the calls and doing what you're supposed to be doing. That sometimes the voices don't register, so that's
No.
interesting.
It was.
Oh man,
But yeah, nothing as big as like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that is funny.
That is.
and the fact that she was there as well. That is interesting.
The fact that she was there, but she loved it. She had a great experience. But yeah, she said this is not for me.
Oh, that is awesome. Well, I have had so much fun having you on here, learning more about you and everything. And we're going into the wrap up of this first episode. And so I just have one quick question for you before we wrap this up. Because you are going on your 4 years now, with the knowledge that you have now, all the experience that you've had throughout this time, if you could go back in time to talk to yourself in the beginning, what would you tell yourself?
Go in there and clear your mind. Learn. Just listen, learn, and ask important questions right there and there, because then you will need it later.
Perfect.
And then and then read all the stuff that you think it's not important. It is very important.
Excellent. Thank you so very much. I appreciate
Thank
it. And for those who are watching and listening, if you have any comments, questions, or you ever want to be a guest on the show, you can email us, and that's going to be wttpodcast@gmail.com. Once again, that is wttpodcast@gmail.com. And you can follow us on social media, but the easiest way to do this is simply go to links.co/WTT podcast. You'll find everything there. This episode has been sponsored by In Digital, a leader next gen core services. Shout out to subscribers of the podcast. And you can see this on Facebook, YouTube, as well as X and LinkedIn Live. And then you can listen 24/7 on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, your favorite podcasting app, and withinthetrenches.net. Have a good one, everyone. And we will see you all in the next one.
You just listened to a Code 7 Network podcast. If you have any questions or would like to be a guest on the show, send an email to wttpodcast@gmail.com.